The starport was loud that evening, filled with ships from every corner of the galaxy, yet one man sat quietly at a corner table, unaware that his life was about to change forever. His name was Daniel, an ordinary human, working as a technician on machines no one cared about. He lived from small jobs, fixing parts, carrying tools, and sometimes cleaning engines. To the galaxy, Daniel was nothing special. Humans were often called weak, soft, and unimportant. But that night, everything began to shift. He noticed them before they spoke to him, tall, graceful figures with glowing eyes and pointed ears. Alien women dressed in shining fabrics, their faces painted with symbols of wealth and power. They were too beautiful, too confident, to be walking directly toward him. Daniel lowered his head, thinking they must have mistaken him for someone else. "Are you Daniel?" one of them asked, her voice calm but carrying a strange kind of command. He nodded slowly. His hands trembled because no alien of such high status had ever spoken to him before. She placed something on the table, a golden data chip filled with credits. The number flashed before his eyes, more wealth than Daniel could earn in 10 lifetimes. His heart pounded. This must be a mistake," he whispered. "It is no mistake," the alien woman said, her eyes steady on him. "We came here for you, for what only a human can give." Daniel felt the room spinning. For years, humans were mocked as the galaxy's weakest. They were used as cheap workers, as traders of small goods, but never respected. And now, suddenly, alien nobility was offering him wealth beyond his dreams. "What do you want from me?" Daniel finally asked, his throat dry. The woman leaned closer, her voice softer now, almost secretive. "We want children, not just any children, children with human blood. We will pay, we will protect, and we will keep our promise. You will not be harmed, but you must agree." The words struck him like lightning. Children, with him, his mind could not believe it. Why would alien women of such beauty and power want human children? It sounded like madness, a cruel joke, yet their eyes were serious, almost desperate. Behind the first woman stood 3 more, waiting, watching him. Their hands carried more data chips, their faces filled with strange hope. Daniel tried to laugh, but the sound died in his throat. "You're saying you'll pay for me to be the father of your children?" "Yes," the woman said, without hesitation. "It is the best money we will ever spend. You do not yet know the value of your kind, but we do. Human strength is rare. Human survival is unmatched. Our children with you will change the future of our worlds." Daniel sat frozen. He remembered the long nights he worked just for food, the insults he suffered for being human, the way people looked down on him in the streets of alien cities. And now, these women were offering him honor, riches, and something far stranger, a legacy. But he also felt fear. What if this was a trap? What if their promises meant slavery, not freedom? What if their interest was not love, but only desperation? One of the alien women stepped forward, her voice breaking with emotion. "We are not here to trick you. We are here because our bloodlines are dying. Our people need strength. We need hope. And humanity has it." Daniel's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. For the first time in his life, he realized that being human might mean more than survival. It might mean the key to the galaxy's future. Around them, the starport noise continued, but Daniel no longer heard it. All he could hear was the quiet, serious request from the alien women before him. He looked at the credits again. Enough. To change not just his life, but the lives of his family, his people. Maybe all of Earth. Yet it was not the money that shook him the most. It was the thought of children. Children who would be half human, half alien, carrying the spirit of both worlds. For the first time, Daniel saw the alien women not as strangers, but as mothers waiting for a chance at tomorrow. Their beauty no longer frightened him. Their power no longer seemed untouchable. They were vulnerable, almost pleading, and he was the one who could decide. And so the deal was set before him, a choice that no human had ever been given. A choice that could make him richer than kings, or curse him with a burden heavier than war. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his heart still racing. "I need time to think," he whispered. The lead woman smiled faintly, placing the golden chip into his hand. "Take your time. But remember, Daniel, this is not just about money. This is about the future of the galaxy." And with that, they turned and walked away, leaving him staring at the fortune in his palm. And the greatest decision he would ever face. Daniel could not sleep that night. The golden chip glowed faintly on his small metal table, a silent reminder of the unbelievable offer. He kept turning it in his hands, staring at the numbers again and again. It was real. The wealth was real. But the reason behind it, that was the part he could not understand. Why human children? Why him? He sat on his bed, staring out through the dusty window of his workers' quarters. Outside, alien ships rose and landed, their lights flashing across the night sky. To most of the galaxy, humans were nothing more than background workers, cheap labor from a small blue world. Yet now, powerful alien women were offering fortunes for something only humans could give. The next day, Daniel decided to look for answers. He went to the lower decks of the starport, where rumors always moved faster than ships. In the shadows of the market stalls, he heard whispers. Stories about alien scientists, hidden reports, and secret experiments. And every story carried the same strange thread, human DNA. He paid a small trader to access restricted data feeds. The old alien merchant grinned with broken teeth. "Curious, are you? I've seen many humans ask the same question lately." He slid a cracked tablet across the counter. "Read for yourself." Daniel's hands shook as he scrolled through the files. Charts, diagrams, glowing test results, all pointing to one shocking truth. Human blood was unique. Where other species grew weak under pressure, human cells adapted. Where others died from strange diseases, humans survived. Where others panicked in chaos, humans endured. The report described humans as the ultimate survivors, not the strongest, not the fastest, but the ones who refused to die. Daniel's breath caught. He thought of Earth, a planet filled with storms, deserts, freezing mountains, endless wars, and disasters. Somehow, humanity had survived it all. That same spirit was hidden in their blood, in their children. And the aliens had finally noticed. As he read, more details appeared. Offspring born with human blood show higher recovery rates, faster healing, stronger emotional bonds, greater creativity. The words burned into his mind. For generations, humans had been treated as weak, but now the galaxy realized they carried the one thing everyone needed: resilience. The old merchant leaned closer, whispering, "That is why the women pay, boy. They want their children to live, even when the stars themselves die." Daniel left the market in silence, his heart heavy with new knowledge. The offer was no joke. It was not a trap. It was real, and it was bigger than him. Later that evening, the alien women returned. They found him standing near the docking bay, staring at the ships. The lead woman, her silver eyes glowing softly, stepped forward. "You've seen the truth, haven't you?" she asked. Daniel nodded slowly. "It's not about me. It's about what's inside me. What's inside all humans." She gave a sad smile. "You understand now? Our worlds are growing weaker. Our children do not survive as they once did. But your people endure everything. Even when broken, even when dying, humans rise again. That is what we seek. Her words made his chest tighten. He had always thought of himself as small, unimportant, just one man lost in a massive galaxy. But now, he realized every human carried something priceless. Why not just take it? He asked quietly. Why pay us? Why not force us? The woman shook her head. 'Cause that would destroy what we hope to gain. True strength is not taken by force. It is given by choice. That is the human way, is it not? Daniel swallowed hard. He could not deny her words. Humans had always chosen their battles, chosen to fight for survival. Even when no one believed they could win. Another alien woman stepped forward, younger, her voice trembling. Do you think us shameless? Perhaps we are, but we are mothers. First, we will beg, we will pay, we will kneel if we must. All for the chance to give our children a life worth living. Daniel looked into her eyes and saw no arrogance, no power, only desperation, only hope. The silence stretched between them, heavy with meaning. Around them, engines roared and ships thundered. But in that small circle of light, time seemed to pause. At last, Daniel spoke. If what you say is true, then every human is valuable. Not just me, every one of us. The leader nodded. Yes, and soon, all humans will learn it. But you are the first. The first to be chosen. The first to decide. Daniel felt the weight of her words pressed down on him. He was just a technician, a man who fixed machines. Yet now, he was standing at the center of something that could change the galaxy. He looked at the golden chip again, still heavy in his pocket. Money could buy comfort. Money could buy freedom. But what they were asking for was much greater than wealth, children, legacy, the future. And as the alien women waited for his answer, Daniel realized the galaxy was no longer laughing at humanity. No, the galaxy was begging for them. The following night, the starport looked the same. Neon lights glowing, ships roaring, and crowds moving between hangars. But for Daniel, nothing was the same anymore. He carried the secret in his chest, heavier than the credits in his pocket. The galaxy wanted humans, not for labor, not for war, but for blood, for life, for children. He had expected the alien women to disappear after their strange offer, but they returned, more determined than ever. This time, they did not come quietly. They arrived in a long silver craft, its wings glowing with energy. As it landed, the crowd stopped to stare. From its doors stepped armored guards with tall spears that shimmered like lightning. Then came the princess. Everyone knew her name, Princess Alira of the Celathi. Her people ruled 3 star systems. Her beauty was spoken of in songs. She was tall, with pale violet skin, hair like dark rivers, and eyes that glowed silver under the lights. When she walked into the starport, silence followed. And to everyone's shock, she walked straight to Daniel. He felt his knees weaken. Whispers spread through the crowd. A human? Why him? What could she want with such a low-born worker? Alira stopped only a step away, her silver cloak flowing behind her. In her hands, she carried a small case. She placed it gently on the table between them and opened it. Inside lay crystal cubes, each one filled with shifting light. Not credits this time, but treasures. Enough wealth to buy ships, planets, even empires. This is my offer, she said, her voice carrying both command and vulnerability. I will pay it all, if you agree. Daniel's mouth went dry. Agree to what? He whispered, though he already knew. Alira's eyes did not move from his. To give me a child who carries your blood, your strength, your humanity. This is not a game, and it is not lust. It is survival. The crowd gasped. The guards tightened their grip on their weapons, but Daniel could only stare. The weight of her words crushed the air from his lungs. "Why me?" he asked finally. "Why not another human?" She lowered her voice so only he could hear. "Because you were the first to be chosen, and the first will always be remembered. History will remember the name of the man who said yes, or the one who said no." The words cut deep. He was not just Daniel the technician anymore. He was standing at a door that could open to a new galaxy. But fear gripped him still. What if he agreed and lost himself? What if he became nothing more than a tool, a machine for creating children? What if they promised respect but gave only chains? Alira seemed to sense his thoughts. She reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly as it touched his. For a moment, all her royal strength faded, and Daniel saw her as something else. Not a princess, not a ruler, but a woman, afraid for her people. Desperate for hope. "I will not lie to you," she said softly. "This is not easy. For me, it is shame. For you, it is burden. But if we succeed, it will be remembered as the greatest investment in the galaxy. Not in wealth, but in life." Her words echoed in his mind. The greatest investment. He thought of Earth, a small forgotten planet, mocked by alien empires. Could it be that humanity, hidden and humble, held the power to change the stars themselves? Daniel closed his eyes, breathing slowly. Around him, the crowd waited, whispering, judging. The guards stood like statues. Alira's hand remained on his, warm and trembling. Finally, he opened his eyes. "If I agree, this will not just be my child. It will be our child. Half human, half Celethi. Not owned, not bought, but born free." Alira's lips curved into a small, almost broken smile. "Yes, born free. That is all I ask." He looked once more at the treasure, at the wealth that could make him powerful beyond imagination. But it was not the glowing crystals that made him speak his next words. It was her eyes, filled with hope and fear, waiting for an answer. "I accept," Daniel said. The crowd erupted in noise. Some laughed, others shouted in disbelief. But Alira stood taller, her silver eyes shining. She turned to her guards. "Mark this day," she declared. "The first contract is made. The future begins here." The guards slammed their spears against the floor, the sound echoing like thunder. The starport buzzed with chaos, but Daniel felt only silence. The choice was made. His life was no longer his own. As the princess led him toward her ship, Daniel glanced back at the crowd. Some looked at him with envy, others with disgust, but many with awe. He was just one human among billions, yet now he carried the weight of two species. The doors of the silver craft closed behind him, and as it lifted into the night sky, Daniel realized that nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The news spread faster than any ship could fly. By the next sunrise, every system in the sector knew a human male had signed the first contract with Princess Alira of the Celethi. Holoscreens flashed his face across alien cities. His name, once meaningless, now carried power. Daniel the First, some called him. The chosen human, others whispered. To many, he was a joke, an ordinary worker caught in a strange game. But to others, he was the start of something much larger. On distant worlds, alien leaders sat in silence as they listened to reports. Scientists argued over charts and numbers. Traders laughed at the thought of women paying for humans. But mothers across the stars listened more carefully. They understood. They knew what it meant to fight for children, for survival, for future. And so the whispers grew. If the Celethi princess has done it, why not us? Why not me? Daniel, meanwhile, sat quietly inside the silver craft, unsure of what he had just unleashed. Alira stood beside him, calm in appearance, but he could see the strain in her eyes. She knew the galaxy was watching her every step, ready to either crown her as a visionary, or curse her as a fool. "Do you regret it already?" Daniel asked, his voice low. Alira turned her silver gaze to him. "No. Regret is for those who choose nothing. I have chosen, and so have you." Her words did not comfort him. He thought of Earth, far away, unaware of the storm gathering around them. What would his people say if they knew the galaxy wanted them not as equals, but as fathers of alien? Heirs. The silver craft landed in the Celethi capital, a city of tall towers glowing like crystal under the twin moons. As they stepped out, a crowd of thousands roared. Some cheered. Others shouted angrily, waving banners that accused Alira of shaming her people. Guards lined the streets to hold back the tide of voices. Daniel felt his knees weaken. Never had so many eyes been on him. To the crowd, he was not Daniel the worker. He was the symbol of something new, something terrifying, something unstoppable. That night, the Great Council of the Celethi met. Leaders from across the empire filled the hall, their robes shimmering like liquid stars. Daniel stood beside Alira, feeling out of place among such power. The council leader, an elder with skin as pale as glass, spoke first. "Princess Alira, you bring us shame. To beg a human for children, to mix our blood with theirs. This is madness." Murmurs rose, sharp and angry. Alira stood firm. "This is not madness. This is survival. Look at the data. Our bloodlines weaken, our children die, but human strength endures. With them, we can live again." The elder's eyes narrowed. "And what if you are wrong? What if this human betrays us? What if his kind rise above us?" Alira's voice shook, but only for a moment. "Then we will face that future with stronger children, not weaker ones. But I do not believe I am wrong. I believe this is the greatest investment we can make." The council argued deep into the night. Some called it dangerous. Some called it brilliant. And while they fought with words, messages flew across the stars. Other empires were listening, watching, preparing. On the trade world of Vesh, alien merchants whispered of setting up auctions for human males. On the war moons of the Kreth, generals debated if they should protect humans or capture them. On peaceful planets, mothers cried as they imagined children, strong enough to survive sickness, hunger, and war. The galaxy was no longer laughing. The galaxy was choosing sides. Daniel sat in silence through it all, his mind spinning. He had wanted a quiet life. Now, he was at the center of history. He wondered if he had made a mistake. But when he looked at Alira, he saw no fear. Only resolve. Late that night, she spoke to him privately. "Do not think you are small, Daniel. You are the beginning, and beginnings are always hard. But one day, when our children stand strong, the galaxy will remember your choice." He nodded, though doubt still clouded his heart. But deep down, a strange fire had begun to burn. For the first time, he was not ashamed to be human. For the first time, he felt his people mattered. Outside, the stars seemed brighter. But in those stars, countless eyes were watching, waiting. Some with envy, some with anger, some with desperate hope. And as the galaxy held its breath, one truth became clear. Humanity, once ignored, was now the most valuable treasure in the universe. Daniel sat alone in the chamber given to him inside the Celethi palace. The walls shimmered faintly with flowing silver light, like water frozen in motion. Outside the balcony, the alien capital glittered with towers rising into the night sky. He had never seen such beauty, yet inside his heart there was no peace. He stared at his reflection in the polished glass table before him. He did not look like a hero, nor a chosen one. Just a human man, tired, confused, and now holding the weight of an entire galaxy's expectations. The first contract had been signed, but the meaning of it pressed down heavier with each hour. Alien women across the stars were already sending messages, begging, offering fortunes. Leaders debated, councils argued, and entire empires watched his every step. He clenched his fists. He was no king, no warrior. He had no special training, no great wisdom. He was a technician, a worker who fixed machines. And yet, the galaxy was treating him like a pillar of destiny. The door opened softly, and Alira stepped inside. She wore no crown tonight, no heavy robe. It's just a simple white dress, glowing faintly in the silver light. For once, she looked less like a princess, more like a woman carrying her own fears. "You are restless," she said quietly. Daniel did not turn to face her. Restless. "I feel like I'm drowning. One choice, one word from me, and it changes. The course of worlds. Do you understand how heavy that feels?" Alira walked closer, her silver eyes calm. "I do. I have lived with such choices all my life. That is what it means to lead. And now, whether you wanted it or not, you lead too." He laughed bitterly. "Lead? I never wanted to lead anyone. I never wanted this. I don't even know if I can do it." Alira's gaze softened. "Daniel, no one ever knows if they can. But choice is not about knowing. It is about stepping forward despite the doubt." Her words echoed, but his mind still twisted in conflict. The wealth offered was enough to lift all of Earth from poverty, to buy freedom for countless humans who worked as slaves across alien systems. But the cost was children. His children, born into empires that might use them as symbols, or worse, as weapons. "What if I say no?" he asked at last, his voice barely above a whisper. Alira did not flinch. "Then the galaxy will search for another. You will live quietly, but your name will be cursed by those who believed in you. And the chance to change everything will pass into another's hands." Daniel's stomach tightened. He thought of the faces he had seen on the starport screens. Mothers who cried with hope. Leaders who sneered with scorn. Humans on distant colonies who suddenly looked at themselves differently. All because of him. He buried his face in his hands. "Why me, Alira? Why not someone stronger, smarter, braver?" Alira leaned closer, her voice gentle. "Because you were chosen first. Fate is not always about being the best. Sometimes it is about being the one who stands in the right place at the right time. And you, Daniel, are standing there now." Silence filled the chamber. Daniel could hear only the slow beat of his own heart. He thought of Earth, the laughter of children playing in broken streets, the strength of families who had nothing, yet endured everything. Maybe the aliens were right. Maybe humanity's strength was not in power or weapons, but in survival, in never giving up. At last, he lifted his head. His eyes were tired, but steadier. "If I do this, if I agree to more than Alira's contract, then it cannot be for money alone. It cannot be for riches that will vanish in time. It has to be for something greater. For my people. For all." Humans. Alira's silver eyes gleamed with quiet approval. "Then you already know the answer." But still, the fear did not leave him. For every promise of hope, there was a shadow of danger. What if the children were not free? What if empires fought to control them? What if the galaxy tore itself apart because of this choice? That night, Daniel walked alone to the highest balcony of the palace. The stars stretched endlessly above him, cold and eternal. He looked at them and whispered, "What is the worth of one human choice?" The wind carried no answer, only silence. But deep inside, Daniel knew the choice would be his, not the councils, not the rulers, not even Alira him, a single human man. And the galaxy, whether it wanted to or not, would have to live with what he decided. Daniel had seen palaces, councils, and guards in shining armor, but nothing had shaken him. As much as the next day's gathering. Alira led him through the palace halls into a chamber filled not with rulers, not with warriors, but with women. Alien women from many worlds, dressed not in royal clothes but in simple garments of mourning and hope. The air was heavy with silence. Daniel felt their eyes on him, hundreds of them, watching, waiting. Some were young, their faces still untouched by age. Others were older, their skin marked with years of sorrow. And in every face he saw the same thing, longing. One of the women stepped forward. Her skin glowed faintly blue, her eyes dim with grief. In her hands she held a small crystal frame showing a child's picture. The child had sharp ears and bright eyes but was pale and fragile. "My son," she said softly. "He lived only 3 seasons. He was too weak." Her voice broke as she looked at Daniel. But if he had been part human, he might still be alive. Daniel's chest tightened. He had expected bargaining, riches, power. He had not expected tears. Another woman stepped forward, younger, her hands trembling as she clutched a bundle of cloth. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was not a child, but a small toy carved from crystal, shaped like a bird. "I made this for my daughter," she whispered, but she never held it. She was gone before her first breath. The chamber stirred. With quiet sobs, Daniel felt his throat close. He had thought of these women as powerful beings, rulers of systems, owners of fleets. But here, they were only mothers, broken by loss, desperate for hope. Alira touched his arm gently. "Now you see, this is why they come to you. Not for wealth, not for pride, but for life. For children they can hold. For children who will not fade." One by one, the mother spoke. Stories of children who never grew strong. Stories of bloodlines fading. Stories of empires that feared the end. Each voice carried grief, and yet behind every grief was the same word. Hope. Daniel could not look away. He saw them as women, not aliens. Their tears were the same as any human mother's tears. Their trembling hands were no different than those of women on earth who prayed for their children's survival. But in their eyes, he saw something more. A faith in him, in humans. A faith he was not sure he could carry. He tried to speak, but his voice shook. I never asked for this. I am not a healer. I am not a savior. I am just a man." An elder mother, her hair like silver threads, stepped forward. Her voice was soft but steady. "That is enough. You are human. That is all we ask. Your blood carries what ours has lost. We do not need a savior. We need a father." The words struck him like a blade. A father. Not a hero, not a symbol. A father. Daniel lowered his head. He had never been called that. He had never thought of himself in that way. And yet, looking at the rows of mothers before him, he realized they were not begging for a throne or an empire. They were begging for family. For children who could run, laugh, and live. The silence stretched again until another mother stepped forward. This one was different, younger, her eyes burning with determination. Some call us shameless for paying humans. Let them laugh. I would give all I own, even my life, for one child who will live. She looked directly at Daniel, her voice breaking. If you give me that, then you will not just change my world. You will change me. Daniel's breath grew heavy. He wanted to run, to escape the weight pressing down on him. But they could not. Not while so many eyes held him in their hope. Finally, he lifted his head and spoke, his voice low but firm. If I give you children, they will not be property. They will not be weapons. They will be children, free, loved, and alive. The chamber stirred. The mothers whispered, some weeping, some nodding in agreement. Alira's silver eyes shone with pride. Yes, she said softly. That is all we ever wanted. not soldiers, not heirs, just children who can live. Daniel felt something shift inside him. For the first time, he did not see himself as a tool, nor as a victim of circumstance. He saw himself as part of something larger, a bridge between worlds, built, not of power, but of life. But with that realization came fear too. If he agreed, if he gave them what they asked, then the galaxy would change forever. Empires would fight to control it. Rulers would twist it for power. And yet, could he walk away after seeing their tears? He stood in silence, torn between fear and compassion, as the alien mothers looked at him like he was their only dawn after endless night. The palace was quiet that night, but beyond its walls, the galaxy roared. Reports flashed across systems, councils screamed in anger, traitors rubbed their hands in greed, and mothers whispered prayers of hope. Everyone waited for one man's choice, a human who never dreamed of carrying the fate of stars. Daniel stood alone on the balcony, staring at the sky. The twin moons cast their silver glow. The towers of the capital glittered like crystals. And above it all stretched the endless sea of stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning, unaware that its sons were now the most valuable beings in the galaxy. Behind him, the chamber door opened. It was Alira, her silver eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. She walked to his side and stood quietly, giving him space. "You have not spoken your final word," she said softly. Daniel's jaw tightened, because it feels too heavy. One choice, Alira. Just one word from me, and the galaxy could burn or heal. Alira's gaze remained on the stars. The galaxy is already burning. You can either let it die or give it a future. Her words pressed into him, but his doubts remained. He turned sharply. And what if they use the children as tools? What if rulers twist them for war? What if they grow to hate being half human, half alien? Alira's expression broke for a moment, her voice trembling. And what if they don't? What if they love and laugh and live? What if they are the bridge we all need? Daniel looked into her eyes and saw not a princess, not a ruler, but a woman carrying both fear and hope. And in that moment, his heart shifted. The galaxy did not need him to be a warrior or a king. It needed him to be human, to give what only humanity could give. The next morning, the great hall was filled again. Councils, guards, mothers, and even rival ambassadors crowded the chamber, waiting for his word. The air was thick with tension. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady despite the storm in his chest. "I have heard your offers. I have seen your treasures. I have listened to your grief, and I will not lie. I am afraid. Afraid of what this means, afraid of what may follow. But I have also seen something greater. I have seen mothers who weep for children they never held. I have seen hope that refuses to die, and I cannot walk away from that." A silence fell, deeper than any before. Every eye fixed on him, Daniel drew a breath. "I will honor the first contract. I will give my blood, not for money, not for power, but for life. But hear me clearly, these children will never be owned, never be weapons, never be chained. They will be free, human and alien both. That is my condition. If you cannot accept that, then I walk away." The council erupted in noise. Some shouted in outrage, others in praise. But over it all came the voice of Alira, strong and unyielding. "We accept. On behalf of my people, I swear it. These children will be free." The mothers wept openly, their cries filling the hall. Some fell to their knees, whispering blessings. Others reached out their hands as if to touch the future through him. And in that moment, Daniel felt something new. Not fear, not doubt, but purpose. The announcement spread like fire. Across the stars, alien women sold jewels, lands, even thrones to secure contracts with humans. Ships left for Earth, not to conquer, but to beg. And for the first time in history, humans were not seen as weak or worthless. They were seen as priceless on distant colonies. Enslaved humans lifted their heads with new pride. Traders who once spat at them now spoke their names with respect. And mothers across alien worlds whispered the same words. The best money ever spent in the galaxy. Daniel walked through the palace gardens later, the weight of it all still pressing on him. But when he passed the mothers and saw their eyes filled with hope instead of sorrow, he understood. It was not about credits. It was not about power. It was about children who would live. Alira joined him under the light of the moons. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. Daniel shook his head. "No. For the first time in my life, I don't regret being human." She smiled, a rare, fragile smile. Then perhaps the galaxy has already begun to heal. And as the stars burned above them, Daniel knew this truth would echo across generations, that the galaxy's greatest treasure was not ships or weapons, it's not gold or power, but the blood of humanity given freely. With love, it was, indeed, the best money ever spent.